musician than I am, so we're going to allow him to lead the Kirtan. And we're hoping other people will stagger in before the evening gets too far underway. And Mark is going to be recording it live, it sounds like.
We are live now to the world.
Very cool. Any of the people out in the television land, thank you for watching. It is February 7th. Bunch of things happening today. Today is Lord Varaha's Appearance Day, I believe. Is that right?
And Hansi Prabhu will speak a little bit.
He's going to speak a little bit about that. But the main thing that we advertise is just all about the idea of where did everything begin, and the whole concept of creation and evolution and some of the theories that are out there. So think about that, because I'm going to ask you guys to feedback and tell me what your understanding is based on all the propaganda that's being splashed around from whoever you're listening to. So with that, Hamsagati, it's your show until about 7:30. To do Kirtan and then speak for a couple minutes. So take it away, Hamsagati. Thank you very much. And Haribol. You want to put the camera on him for now? Oh, I'll get the words on the screen.
Krishna Parsad Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamite
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamite
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhaktaja Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhaktaja Deshatarine
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Bhaktivinoda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Bring me the drum. The drum.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaur Hari Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Jai Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya 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 Hari Hari.
Good. Yeah.
May we all love Chaitanya. Chaitanya means living force.
That was sweet.
And
That was sweet. Getting too hot.
the living force is really who we are. We are the spirit within, of course, moving the body, which would otherwise be dead, made of potatoes and carrots and other things we eat. Ooh, I'm not that, but we're the living force. And Chaitanya is the living force in immortality. And he inaugurated this chanting movement himself, starting in his appearance in 1486, which was a wonderful time of a full moon, and it was eclipsed, and everybody went into the Ganges River and went, Narayan, Hari, Hari, Hari Krishna. They called for God as they knew what to do. And preceding Lord Chaitanya's advent to start the Hare Krishna movement, he started the hands up in the air, dancing and everything. 13 years prior to his appearance, Nityananda, eternal bliss, that means. Nitya, eternal, Anand, happiness. His name is the elder brother of Krishna called Balaram. Balaram, in the age of Kali, where we're in now, he came in that medieval time in the form of Nitya Ananda. He went to everyone seeking to give them happiness that they were lacking. They're dried up and sad and arguing, and there was power people invaded the country, took it over, and this and that. So he came to give them something beyond that, transcendental knowledge. And he enacted pastimes like a little child, but had many wonderful occasions to play with his friends. He would sometimes play the Sheshanaga, or the celestial serpent on whom Vishnu rests. Another boy would play the part of Vishnu. And he would enjoy being who he is. He's the support of all the spiritual worlds and so on. And we can hardly imagine how somebody could come and be among us and do that. But if anybody can do it, God can do it. If there's God, he could do that. Sorry. Jai. And just like the waves on a river, the Supreme Friend, Supreme Fun Personality appears in this world to perform different functions. So he came because in the spiritual world it's said there's no fighting. So the Lord wanted to come into the material world because he wanted to fight. Play fight. For him it's play. And he appeared in order to combat two personalities who descended from the Vaikuntha planet, the guards. You've seen the two figures guarding the garage over there, or the house on that side? They're called Jai and Vijay, victory and more victory. And they, in the spiritual world, they guard the entrance to the planets without anxiety. And four sages, sons of Brahma, the first knower, Brahman, Vedic knowledge. Veda means to know. And it came through him. He first in the universe generated that Vedic knowledge and also generated all species of beings, starting with the demigods. So it's said that we descend. We don't really, we descend spiritually, sons of the higher power. Sons and daughters, for sure. So he wanted to enter this world in order to battle. So he set up an arrangement where the two gatemen were a little bit belligerent with some saintly people who came to the gates of heaven, the spiritual world. And he told them, "You're too young. Come back when you grow up. You can't come in and see Narayan. You cannot." And they became angry and they cursed those two gatekeepers. And we must know that the fact that they were allowed to be right there means that they were in favor of the supreme spiritual being. and he was setting something up. So they did curse the two gatekeepers, and later then the Vishnu came out, and he thought, oh, I can't back up the curse of these Brahmin boys, but I can give you a little benediction that you can fall into the material world as they're saying you have to do, but you can do it as my friend 3 times, or as my enemy, as my friend 7 times, pardon me, as my friend 7 times, or as my enemy 3 times. They consulted together. We'll take 3 times. We want to come back to our position soon. So, I fell into the material world.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so they started conquering over. One was called Hiranyaksha. Hiranya means gold. Yaksha means the exploiter. Just like nowadays, you got people who think money is going to help make them happy, exploiting everything to try to get more, and they wanted also more. They got it here and there. So he started disturbing the whole universe, and the demigods were very afraid because power was over their head, and they approached Brahma and asked for help, and he petitioned that the Lord would come down and deal with this fellow. So then a very wonderful being appeared in the ocean, and his name is Varaha. He's a transcendental boar, like to dig in the earth, and actually the earth had been cast into that ocean because of all the changes from these big, now called demons, who came down there. So he picked up the earth from the Garbha ocean. Garbha means the womb, and that's from the ocean at the bottom of the Garbha. It's called the Garbhadak ocean, and the earth was brought up by the boar to save it, because he likes helping the pious and helping his creation go on nicely. And this Hiranyaksha saw, what is this pig here? What's he doing? And he went there to harass him, and he was mighty. He was made very mighty. We're made with something. And he was made with great material power. And they went at it, and the Lord loves to sport, so he liked to beat each other, hit each other with these sharpened maces, and their wounds were there on their bodies, and it went on. And it went on, and finally the Lord indifferently slapped him behind the ear, and he fell dead. That's after a lot of other fights. I won't get into detail. So finally he killed him, and today is the day celebrating the appearance of Lord Boar long ago. In the lunar calendar, it happens this time of year.
So why do we celebrate these days?
We celebrate because the Lord comes to benedict the people. God would come because God means good. Good God, we say. And therefore, to make us happy, we can recognize how sweet Lord is.
What benefit do we get?
We get benefits
What's
of.
in it for me?
Oh, I think you know. Maybe you should tell us. One benefit we get is that we can gradually or quickly end our sojourn of going through ignorance, forgetfulness, and mistaken identity and mistaken lives, where we can become eternally enjoying the company of the Supreme Being. We can join God in the world of God and make this world more godly and make ourselves godly, and that will give us eternal happiness, freedom from suffering, and freedom from birth, disease, old age, and death, which are problems facing us all, although we're spiritual. So just by hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Like if you read from the Bhagavad, all those colored books, the third canto, part 3, you'll find this pastime about what I've just been talking about. And I don't know a specific benediction one we get, but when we celebrate Krishna's appearance or his incarnation's appearance, Krishna very much wants to reciprocate and will give us all kinds of strength and happiness and guidance to glide above the fray, rise above the ocean of crashing material nature. And we'll have power to be happy, feel confident, even in the time of great danger.
Right. And so today is the appearance day as Varaha, and we celebrated that this morning at 10 a.m. Tomorrow is actually appearance. So this week is a very auspicious week with a lot of appearance day of different incarnations of God. Tomorrow is the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, who is the brother again of Krishna,
Lord
Chaitanya.
Nityananda, yes.
Yeah, and he is supposed to be the most merciful incarnation who's come in this age. And they say by worshiping him, remembering him, or just chanting his names, everything difficult becomes easy. It becomes very easy. What's so difficult otherwise will become so easy by chanting his names. And vice versa. Without remembering or chanting him, even simple things will become very difficult. So tomorrow we're celebrating Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Is that little deity on the left, you see up there on the altar, that's Lord Nityananda. He's come down in this particular age of Kali to give us the benediction again, to make it really easy for us. And at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be celebrating again here with some chanting and singing and dancing and remembrances of his pastime. So anybody who would like to join us, you're most then welcome.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Oh.
So
7:30.
thank you very much for allowing me to express the view
Nityananda.
of the
Call
Bhagavad.
him Nita in short.
What? Also, for anybody that just another little closing point on Lord Nityananda, you'll see that for those people, this is maybe a lot of people, this is really all very good stuff. When we chant these prayers here, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, of course that's Lord Chaitanya, is the first 3 words. And then Prabhu, meaning master. Prabhu means master. Devotees generally refer to each other as Prabhu because they try to take the position of the servant. So if you're the master, I'm the servant, or if I'm the servant, you're the master. So that's what the word Prabhu means. So in this case, they're referring to Nityananda. He is also our master. This is the same personality that Bhadrani was just referring to. He's coming in the form of Lord Chaitanya's brother, and his manifestation, I don't know if it says it here, immediately planted expansion. So in Krishna Leela, when they came during the days of Krishna's appearance, he came in the form of Lord Balaram. Okay, so I just thought I'd point that out for people that may not be aware of these little details. We're not going to go into a whole lot more of that right now. And there's our little cartoon for the day, sharing sort of our comical understanding of what.
Looks like it's evolving pretty well.
Yeah, this is a little visual pun on some people's ideas of what evolution is. Okay, so before we get into it, I want everybody to keep thinking about what your understanding is of evolution, and what do you really believe? Where do you think we came from? Do you lean towards the scientific explanation that everything evolved essentially from pond scum, or whether you really think that maybe there is something else? And how do we get here? You know, I mean, obviously we were born, but where was our parents were born, and then who's before our parents? And keep going back. Where did it all come? Is this the kind of thing that we think of when we think of where we came from?
Not my dad.
So yeah, so we're gonna do a verse. We always try to do some kind of a verse, and so the verse tonight is going to be this one. It comes from the Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll get into some more in-depth discussion, and I'll try to point some things out. Maybe some of you have heard some of these things, maybe not, and we'll give you some exposure to what's become common in terms of, or some of the arguments that are there to defend the Vedic tradition's position on where we came from, and hopefully share some things you might not have heard of before. But for now, this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 3, and we will do our salutation to Veda Vyas, which is right here. Om Namo, so please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So once again, we're giving our respects to Veda Vyas for his wonderful contribution in writing the Vedic literatures. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit more tonight. But that's the appropriate thing to do, because without his effort, we would be without any of this information and really sort of in a pickle in terms of trying to figure things out. So here we go. Bhagavad Gita. We'll do the English. We kind of do a little backwards here because people like to know what they're chanting when we get to the Sanskrit part. So I will say it. Everybody please repeat after me. The total material substance, called Brahman, is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings. O son of Bharat. Okay, so let's get a couple things straight here. The word Brahman here is referring to the entire cosmic energy, or sometimes referred to as the Mahapradhan, the 24 elements. I'm not going to go into all of them, which is where the earth began. Or I should say the sages, the Vedas break it down to there's 24 basic elements, okay? And that's sometimes loosely referred to as the Brahman, meaning sum total of everything. So what this verse is saying is that, and it says right there, the total material substance called the Brahman. So if you take everything you see, you experience in the stars, billions of miles away, energy, all aspects of energy, then you're talking about the Brahman. And Krishna is saying here that Brahman, I impregnated. And until he puts his blessing, his vision, his energy, his awakening into that energy, it's not manifest. Nothing's happening. Krishna glances over it and boom, it all starts happening. Making possible the births of all living entities. Okay? Keep in mind, we've talked many times about the impersonalists, the ones who think that the goal is to merge into, they frequently refer to it as the white light. They're actually referring to the Brahman here. So Krishna is saying that no. There is something more that's beyond the Brahman. It's Krishna who's the one who created the Brahman and who's actually impregnating the Brahman. So if you don't have a loving affection for the Supreme Lord, you can only go as high as merging into the white light, which isn't really very satisfying for the soul. Sometimes I jokingly say, I might have offended a few people even saying this, if you really want to merge with the light, then just go sit in a closet and stare at it. Stare at a light bulb and see how long you can do that, because it's not there's not really much satisfaction in that. Okay, so leaving that aside, let's move forward here. We'll do the Sanskrit real quick just to do it.
That's the Brahman of all universes.
The Brahman of all the billions of universes, everything they see with the Hubble telescope, 300,000 light years out into space, which is about as far as they are capable of looking. And they're actually not even looking, because I think they're doing it through electronic telescopes, and they're using all sorts of high technology. I don't think they're literally looking. I think they're looking at sound waves, or they're hearing sound waves. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but they have some sense of what's out in the universe to the extent of about listen to this carefully, 300,000 light years. We know how fast light travels. Was it 532,000 feet per second, something like that? I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a lot.
That sounded good.
Right?
And a half.
Yeah, I mean, it light. I mean,
186,000 miles per second.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure about that. So think about that. I mean, actually, when the light's moving so fast that when we turn, well, what is it? I think it takes 7 seconds for the light of the sun to get here, something like that. Does it take that long?
5 minutes.
I don't know. Is it that long?
5 minutes.
I should have looked it up. I'm sorry. I'm ignorant right now. But anyhow, try to imagine how, and we know how far, this is another fact I don't have, how far the sun away. So try to imagine 300,000 light years, not just a couple seconds, not a couple days, light years out into space. All of that is part of this Brahman energy that Krishna is saying, I started it up. Okay, so let's go to the next thing here. We're going to do the Sanskrit. We'll do the word for word. Sometimes it makes it a little easier if I break it up. And then we'll do the whole thing together. Please repeat. Mama, my, Yonir, source of birth, Mahat, the total material existence, Brahma, supreme, Kasmin, in that, Garbham, pregnancy, Didami, create, Aham, I, Sambhava, the possibility, Sarva Bhutanam, of all living entities, Tata, thereafter, Bhavati, becomes, Bharata, O son of Bharat. Who is son of Bharat? What's another name for him? No. I know you know. Who is it? He just said it. Did anybody catch it? Who are they referring to here when they say the son of Bharat?
He said Arjuna.
That's right. He was referring to Arjuna. Arjuna was the son of Bharat Maharaj. Okay? Who's also the name for...
Descending.
Excuse me. Yeah, he's coming back from several generations. Okay, descended son.
Going back, way back.
Yeah, going way back. Okay? So, because actually his immediate father was King Prithu, I believe. Is that right? King Prithu with Kunti? Pandu. Yeah, excuse me.
It's okay.
All right. So, the Pandavas. That's where they came up with that name. He was the son of Pandu. Okay, so here we go. Let's do the Sanskrit and we'll get on with the show here. Again, please repeat. Mama, Yonir, Mahad, Brahma, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma, Tasmin, Garbam, Didamyaham, Tasmin Garbam Didamyaham. Okay, that's good. We're losing everybody on the last word. Tasmid Garbam Dadyamyaham. Okay. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam. Tato Bhavati Bharata. Tato Bhavati Bharata. Tato Bhavati Bharata. Okay, let's see if we can do it all together. Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. Tasmin Garbam Didyamyaham. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam. Tato Bhavati Bharata. Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. Tasmin Garbam Didyamyaham. Sambhava Sarvabhutanam. Tata Bhavati Bharata. Who would like to try it? Come on.
I'll do it.
Good.
Mamar Yanir
Brahma.
Brahma.
Yeah. No, let us repeat it with you. We're going to repeat it after you.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, do it again.
Mama Yanir Brahma.
Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma.
Tajmin Garbham Dadayahami Aham.
Very good. Tatasmin Garbin Dadyamyam.
Sabhava Sarva Batunam.
Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam.
Tatu Bhavati Bharata.
Tato Bhavati Bharata. Cool. You did it. Anybody else?
Mamayonir Mahad Brahma.
Mamayonir Mahad Brahma. Tasmin Garbam Dadyamyaham.
Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam.
Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam. Tato Bhavati Bharata. Thank you, Vishanta. Anybody else want to try it before we press on here? Robert?
Mamayonir Mahad Brahma.
Mamayonir Mahad Brahma.
Asmin Garbam Dadaya Aham.
Tasmin Garbam Dadyamyaham.
Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam.
Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam.
Tato Bhavati Bharata.
Tato Bhavati Bharata. Good.
The one that says Dad Hammy.
Dad Hammy?
How do you say it? That threw me every time.
Okay, no. All right.
Because when you do the sing song, it's so much easier to follow.
Yeah.
So Tajmin,
Like I've said many times, and you basically did it, you just put the wrong emphasis on the syllables.
Okay.
Break it up into 2 or 3 letters at a time. Okay? So you were right in the sense that it does say Dad Ham Ya Hum. That's what it really says. But if you look at the flat A, it goes Dadyam Yaham. And Sanskrit, they've broken it up. Sometimes it can be, those words can be compacted together. You can take the space out. Yeah, so it'd be Dadyam Yaham.
Dada Yaham.
Dadyam Yaham. Go hum.
Dadyahamam.
Dadyam. Right?
Yaham. So Yaham, so put the Y with the.
Yeah, pack it together and it'll come back for you.
Because that Y is not really the trailing end of that word. It's really
The beginning of the next
the
word.
beginning of the next two syllables.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if I can do this.
I question Mahabharata.
How's that?
Okay, so you have Bharata there, and you have the Mahabharata. So where's
Yeah, that's a little easier to
Just a
read.
second, Lori. Let me try it like that.
Tajmin Garbham Dadham Yaham.
There you go. A little better. I just moved the letters around a little.
Yeah, that makes it easy.
Makes it a lot easier.
Oh, that's better.
Right?
A lot easier to
Tasmin Garbam Dityam Yaham. So it comes with practice. After a while
So you
you
gotta get the last one.
yeah, Yaham. Okay, Lori, your question.
Yeah, Mahabharata.
Maha, where are we looking
Okay,
at?
what was it?
Oh, Maha. No, that's Maha Brahman.
No, at the bottom. Bharata was the son or the progenitor of.
Oh, you talk about this down here, the word here, Bhavati
Yeah, what's the
Bharata.
relation of Mahabharata?
Yeah. Okay,
Explain.
it's the same word. Is that what you're picking up on? Yeah, Mahabharat
Yes,
is the same word as Bharat, right?
and that means
It means, "O son of Bharat,"
Arjuna.
which was Arjuna.
The
Okay.
grand story of Arjuna.
And why do they call him the descendant of Bharat? Because India used to be known as Bharat Varsha. In fact, we just heard the other day, the whole world was considered Bharat Varsha. It eventually shrunk down to India, and then it got split up to India and Pakistan and so many things. But Bharat, King Bharat, was a great saintly king that goes way, way back in the Sun Dynasty. Okay, so you are very observant. It is the same name, and it refers to the same personality. In both cases, it's the King Bharat, which is known as the name that is given to the Earth planet. And in this case, Arjuna is being respected as a great descendant of that personality. Okay? Good observation on your part. Okay, so here we go. Let's get on with the show here. Back to the verse. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the birth of all living beings, O son of Bharat. So Krishna is very clearly stating, here, in case anybody wasn't sure when they came in this afternoon, where we say the universe came from. Not we say, where the Vedas declare that life and everything came from. Later we'll get into some other theories and we'll show why they maybe don't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so there's a short purport. I'm going to read it and then we'll have some fun here. This is an explanation of the world. Everything that takes place is due to the combination of kshetra and kshetrajna. And those two words mean the body and the spirit soul. Sometimes it's referred to as the body and the knower of the body. That's what it's actually Sanskrit there means. Kshetra means the body, and kshetrajna, gya means is an abbreviation for jnana. Okay, jnana means knowledge. So in this case, kshetra means body, and kshetrajna means the knower of the body. So they're being loosely translated here to mean the body and the spirit soul. Who's the knower of the body? The soul that's situated within the body. Okay. This combination of material nature and the living entity is made possible by the Supreme God Himself. This is the word I used earlier. The Mahatattva is the total cause of the total cosmic manifestation. And that total substance of the material cause in which there are three modes of nature. What are the three modes of nature?
Ignorance,
Passion and
Come on, you got it. You saying it?
goodness. Ignorance, passion, and goodness.
Good. Goodness, ignorance, and passion. You had it too, Peters. Okay, don't forget that. These are really foundational principles everybody should be aware of. It's one of the major gifts that the Vedas have given us. We're going to get to that in a minute. Goodness, passion, generally referred to as goodness, passion, and ignorance. Okay, so they're saying which there are three modes of nature. And if we get a chance, I'm going to show you how those three modes of nature impact how we appear in this material world. Are we appearing in a good family, a bad family, an animal, an insect, a demigod? Those are the kind of the steering rods that tell where you're going to end up in the material world. Is sometimes called Brahman. Okay, so they're saying the Mahatattva, Maha meaning great, Tattva meaning truth. These are literal terms. In those two words, when they're compacted together, basically they're saying the great truth is basically everything that exists in the entire cosmic creation. Okay? It's also referred to as Brahman, as a simpler word to use. The Supreme Personality of Godhead impregnates that total substance, and thus innumerable universes become possible. This total material substance, the Mahatattva, is described as Brahman in the Vedic literatures. And those Vedic literatures that are being referred to here are referred to as the Mundaka Upanishad, where apparently it says there, Tasman etad Brahma nam rupam anadchajayate. Let's see what it says here. The Supreme Person, meaning Krishna or God, impregnates that Brahman with the seeds of the living entities. It's interesting that he uses the word seeds, okay, of the living entities. He gets its seed. That's the spirit soul. He says, okay, we're going to put you here, we're going to put you there, like that, okay. The 24 elements, that's what 24 elements I was referring to earlier, and he's just going to give you some of them here. Beginning from earth, water, fire, and air are all material energy, and they constitute what is called Mahad Brahma, or the Great Brahman, the material nature. As explained in the 7th chapter, that's 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, beyond there is another superior nature, meaning superior to mundane matter, okay? The living entity into material nature, the superior, no, let me scroll here a little bit. The superior nature is mixed by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore all living entities are born of this material nature. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice. This is apparently something the people in India are a little bit more familiar with. We have the wonderful, what do you call it, the commercial grocery companies which make sure that your rice has been sterilized, purified, completely nutritionally wasted away, and they give it to you in a box, and you probably don't find scorpions in your box of Uncle Ben's. Okay.
or anything else.
Or in anything else, because if anybody sold you something like that, you'd sue them and they'd put them out of business. So, but in India, they're not quite so uptight, and the rice goes through a different channeling. And sometimes you'll find, apparently, I never personally encountered this, but apparently Prabhupada is saying that it is common that, or maybe at least it occurs, that scorpions will lay their eggs in piles of rice. And sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of the rice. Right? And sometimes, actually, to be honest, sometimes it actually does happen, at least on our shelves, and maybe you guys have noticed, if you have flour or some kind of, usually it's in a wheat product, and you're not properly keeping it cool, and if it gets old, you open a box of flour or something, and you'll see little bugs flying around in there. Yeah. Same kind of concept, okay? So maybe they're not so good in America at keeping that stuff out. But in the rice, it is not the cause of the scorpion. Obviously, scorpions don't come from rice. Okay? Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of the living entities. He's basically saying right here, in a very kind of indirect way, for all the scientists that are trying to prove that everything is coming from matter, he's saying, nope, matter is not the source of the birth of the living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature, just like the scorpions seem to come out of the rice. To somebody who's not very well educated, they might think, oh, the scorpions come from rice. Well, no. A little education, you can understand that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body. What are we talking about here? According to his past activities, has a different body? Karma, reincarnation, right? Yeah. This is the concept of reincarnation. It's very clearly laid out in the Vedic literatures. Some of the other religious traditions may have some sense of it. To the best of my knowledge, the basic Judeo-Christian Islam tradition don't talk about karma. They have some other concepts. But here it's clearly being stated, according to his past activities, he has a different body, created by this material nature, so that the entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all the manifestations of living entities in this material world. And that's the end of the purport. Okay, so now I've been asking everybody to think a little bit to kind of help me get through this lecture here. What kind of stuff is commonly, I mean, how many people are aware of the fact that there's this huge battle going on for what kids are taught in school regarding where we all came from? I mean, I'm assuming everybody is aware of the fact that there's a whole bunch of very, very aggressive, materialistically minded scientists who are really slamming their fists down saying, it is a disgrace that we are even considering the possibility that everything came from a creator. Because we have proved, without a shadow of a doubt, through evolution, that there is no need for God. And we can prove it. Just give us another 10,000 years. And I'm saying that a little facetiously because the title of tonight's class or program is Life Comes from Life, which is really pretty simple to understand and pretty easy to see millions of examples of, right? We see lemon seed produces lemon acid. What do you call it? Citric acid, okay? We see our bodies are producing all sorts of chemicals, right? Everything. There's chemicals coming from life all over the place. There's literally millions of examples of it. If you go out there and take a blade of grass and you put it in some machine and squish it, it'll probably come out with some kind of green chemical.
What is the 24 elements?
Yeah. Those are all part of the 24 elements.
So actually, life creates matter. If you take a lemon tree that wasn't there before.
Well, it transforms. No, it doesn't create it, but it does transform it.
Transforms matter.
It does transform it. So now the question is, and Prabhupada used to say this very, very challengingly to all these, Daniel Dennett's and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and all these. There's some and we're going to talk about Lawrence Krauss tonight a little bit. These guys are aggressive. They actually say to teach your child religion is child abuse. Stop it. You're filling their heads up with all sorts of gobbledygook like this Christmas, what do you call it, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and God and why not Zeus and who are you to say that there's a God? That's ridiculous. Stop it right now. You're destroying that kid. You're permanently damaging that kid. You're putting all sorts of crazy ideas in his head, and he'll be traumatized for the rest of his life thinking a thunderbolt's going to come down because he did something wrong and God's going to kill him. That's what the atheists are promoting right now.
Oh, in defense, though, there is a lot of garbage out there. And sometimes it may actually be better that the kid doesn't get imprinted.
Are you referring to like alternative faiths garbage?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so much.
Okay.
And
That's
so
fair enough. Okay, we're going to get into that too.
shielding.
We're going to get into that. We're going to
But
get
I
into that
like
too.
Santa Claus.
Well, and they would say, good, you can believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and Zeus and anything else you want. One of the other things they'll say is that they'll say that every person who has particular, and I think this is where we're going to get into where Christian consciousness is different. If you believe in any particular faith, other than in the Christian conscious faith, where we really recognize every other faith on the face of the earth is teaching some aspect of Krishna consciousness or some sort of a simplified version of God consciousness. And Brajrayana in the last couple of weeks, we've probably been to about 5 or 6 different churches around the OJAI Valley, making inroads, talking to ministers, meeting people, and really trying to honestly honor and recognize that they are doing the best they can with the information they have to reach out and restore the relationship with God. How many Christians will go to a Muslim church or even come here for that matter? Well, are you a Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Are you only a Christian?
No.
Okay, so Sasha has a certain degree of Krishna consciousness already in her bloodstream, so to speak. Because the Christian conscious position is, although many people really don't understand this, that at the end of the day, we are encouraging you to follow whatever tradition is speaking to you at this particular time in your personal spiritual growth. With the idea that you just may not care about anything else. You may be perfectly happy, in some very simplified version of, like I think Wicca is just like you worship nature. There's a lot of people that are into Wicca, which is basically worshiping nature.
Not nature worship. That's witchcraft.
Well, Wicca, I believe, it comes down to
witchcraft.
All right. Well, you can put that label on it if you want.
I know someone who was in it.
All right. But anyhow. So the point is that the Krishna conscious position is that we can appreciate it in all these other traditions. So I'm responding to what Lori said a minute ago. However, unfortunately, because some of these other traditions, without putting the finger on any individual one of them, are sometimes lacking in adequate knowledge, which is why I think drives a lot of people to our programs here. They're not able to really defend some of the more subtle aspects of what they're teaching. And therefore, people who are deeper thinkers are going, well, I'm sorry, I have a hard time accepting the limitations of, in the Christian tradition, that if you don't accept Jesus, then you're kind of blasted away into hell forever. Unless, of course, you're a Seventh-day Adventist, they have something a little bit different there. They say it's not forever; it's just the world burns up and you burn up with it. But hold your question. But what happens to all the people that were born before Jesus? And then you have to go and they go through a whole long thing of, well, and depending on who you ask, you get all sorts of different answers. Well, all that is resolved. It's just immediately resolved through the process of reincarnation.
I think one thing is helpful to appreciate, for example, from the Bible and in the Christian tradition, is that there is some information, for example, of creation.
Yeah.
The Lord did so many things in the first 6 days. And God said, "Let there be light," and so on as the worlds were created. What the Vedas provide is maybe a more detailed explanation of just how that.
And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. So, before I go running down my track, what are some other things that maybe you've heard? So anyhow, just to conclude, you're right in a way. Although people have good intentions, for the most part, I think whatever faith the person's in, if they're actually engaging in some kind of faith, there's always exception. There's people who exploit, and there's guys sitting in the front row of the pew trying to sell insurance to everybody in the church, and then they go to the next church and they couldn't give a damn about what they're talking about. That's what they're there for, and there's different flavors and varieties of that. But for the most part, the people who are trying to attend some kind of a religious service are feeling some need to reach out to their creator. Okay? So, but because of this lack of knowledge, in a way, they might be doing some disservice. And I think that's what you're referring to, is they're creating some disservice. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it can.
Okay. It can be very disservice.
When I was a child, I heard the preacher, and what I got from it was he was saying that we are sinful and guilty. And I just, as a child, I said, Jesus didn't say that.
Right, and so therefore we're seeing a big backlash of people that are dropping those traditions.
I pushed away because I felt like, well, that's really not right.
Right.
Guilt, control by guilt.
Yeah, some people would say that the Catholic tradition is based on guilt and fear. And in Krishna consciousness...
shame.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm Irish, we do shame.
You do shame.
No, we don't do guilt.
Oh, you do shame. All right. Okay, well, these are some good observations. And this is why there's been a lot of backlash. And I think it was George Harrison who made the statement that the thing that he really appreciated about Krishna consciousness is that it's really based on loving God, not fearing God. Yeah. Okay, Rajarani, I need you for a minute. Your computer just blocked me out, and you got to come in and put your password in here. Well, give me a second here. It's doing something. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. It might have just come on.
That's funny.
Yeah, you need that. Okay. So, what are some other things that are being discussed in the world today in terms of where everything came from? Do you want to throw some ideas out there? What in the terms of alternative possibilities, and the one we read tonight, specifically usually being motivated by the scientific community. By the way, Prabhupada said he wanted his scientific devotees to use science to prove the existence of God. And what seems to be happening, and there are people doing that, by the way, and I have a video, I don't know if anybody's interested, but later tonight, it's broken up in 6 10-minute sections. This is actually a very interesting video. It was put together by some scientific people who are saying, no, science seems to indicate that God is there. And in fact, there's a video out on the internet that I did see twice in the last 20 days, which is basically science has proved the existence of God. And let me see, I have a few notes here just so we can think about this. And they're saying it's based on 3 fundamental concepts. Let me see if I can find it. Universal proofs for God. Okay, the first one is, and this is something that the theoretical physicists have been arguing about. The first one is the universe had a beginning. Because there are some people that are arguing that there was no beginning. Some of these theoretical physicists they're saying
that's right. There's no car originally. It just suddenly came out.
Well, no, it never suddenly. That's the point they're making, is that it never suddenly did anything. Energy and the world and the universe has always perpetually been here. It never did not exist, and it will always continue to exist. It's like the eternal nature of the soul in a universal form kind of a concept.
They're lacking knowledge there because
that's right.
They don't know the birth and the death of the different universes.
Well, that's right. That's right.
So
that's right.
They're stuck in this universe.
Let me get through these 3 points. So the point is that when they put the Hubble telescope out there, is everybody familiar with the Hubble telescope? What made it so extraordinary was many years ago, probably about 30 or 40 years ago, I don't know exactly. I think it was in the 1970s they launched the Hubble telescope. Prior to that, I mean, the scientists were realizing they made these. You see these pictures if you watch the movie Contact out in Arizona, where there's no ambient light from cities, way on the top of the hills. They put these huge radio telescopes with the idea that that would be the best way to look into the universe because there would be the least amount of interference and they'd have the least amount of clouds and atmosphere. They put it at the top of mountains, and it worked. And then somebody had the brilliant idea of, what if we put all this equipment into a satellite and it didn't have to look through the universal atmosphere at all? The Earth, what do they call it? The stratosphere and the ionosphere and all the spheres, okay? And so they came up with this thing. This guy, Hubble, was one of the first really deep-thinking astrophysicists. And, oh, good. Frank's here. Welcome, Frank. New guest. Okay. So they came up. They named it after this very, very intensive astrophysicist called Hubble. I don't know what his first name was, but what's it? Edwin Hubble. Okay, thank you, Ed.
1920, he discovered in the 20s. He discovered
Come on in.
The Milky Way, which we're in literally, was not the whole ball game. That there was a huge universe beyond that.
So anyhow, thank you for that information. So the thing is that that's why when they put the Hubble telescope in orbit, that's when they were able to go, whoa, and they were able to pierce through the universe 300 million light years because they couldn't do it from Earth. Okay, so when they did that, what did they find out? They found out that all the universes, and don't ask me the physics on how they did this, but they all seem to agree on it, so I'm going to take their word for it, that all the universes are expanding away from each other, and the universe keeps expanding. Now keep that in mind, because the Vedas talk about how the way the universe was created was everything came out of the pores of Mahavishnu, and when he breathes out, boom, all these universes come out. Not just our universe, but billions of universes. Anybody who's seen my map of time, it's illustrated with all these billions of universes coming out. And then when he inhales, they all come back in.
And collapse?
And collapse into the pores of Mahavishnu, yes.
Oh, interesting.
So interesting that's exactly what the physics are confirming. Okay? Hold your comment for a minute. So that's the first thing the scientists are saying, which is, and remember, the people that put this particular video together, they're not devotees. These are just, actually, I think they're Christians, but that's okay. They're using science. They're using scientists. They're using science. Well, see, we can appreciate this. They're using science to show that no, wait a minute, there is a God. And so the first point is that the universe had a beginning. It's not always been here, and it's not always going to be here. It does appear to have its own kind of a life cycle. The next one is that life would not occur on this earth, and this is a number that I pulled off this video, if the conditions were to change, and I think what they refer to conditions is the heat, the distance from the sun, the rotation of the earth, the axle of the earth, right? We're not perfectly straight. We're at 27 degrees or something like that, which is why we have different situations with the different seasons, whether you're in the North Pole, the South Pole, and so forth.
Or if we had no ozone.
What's that?
Or if we had no ozone.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors, but the number that I was given, which I took the time to work the math out here because they phrased it differently, but what they're saying is it's a ratio of 1 to 10 quadrillion, meaning if things were to change as much as 1/10 quadrillionth of what we're dealing with now, life would not exist. So their point that they're trying to make is that what are the odds of that just magically occurring?
Not bloody life.
And our scientist, who unfortunately has passed away, a wonderful devotee by the name of Sadaputa, he made the argument that if you had that, because they all say, well, if you have indefinite amount of time, and he actually did the math. He was a fantastic mathematician. He did the math, and he said, well, wait a minute. Who said we had unlimited amount of time? If we look at the way the birth of the stars, and and there's general knowledge in astronomy. I'm not an expert in it, but I accept the fact that they seem to have some concept that stars eventually will burn out, right? The hydrogen burns out and the star collapses and it creates a dark hole and blah, 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 blah. And that does seem to be a generally consistent thing. There's not much argument about the fact that stars burn out. Well, if that's the case, there's a life cycle to that star. And as soon as you have a finite amount of time, then you can start doing the calculations to see, well, how long does it take for any mutation to happen? What to speak of to start with pond scum to develop into a very complex human being, where if we do choose to watch this later tonight, you'll find that even the development of one cell requires a tremendous amount of perfectly timed mutations. And he did the math and he said, there's just not enough time. So when you hear that argument that, well, I have unlimited amount of time, and I think actually Vashanta I should have brought it up here. Vashanta sent me a very interesting image. I might be able to find it later. It's a beautiful sandcastle on the beach, which somebody spent a lot of time building this sandcastle. And then the thing says underneath it, he says, yeah, this could eventually happen given enough time.
Yeah, the sand particles could fall into
The
place.
sand particles, the waves would just come up on the beach, and all of a sudden the sand particles would just shape into this incredibly intricate sandcastle. Yeah, okay? I'm just saying that it's a spoof on the scientific concept that everything just evolves randomly over time, okay? So that's the second argument, that no, they're finding out that if a factor of 1 to 10 quadrillion is different, and don't ask me exactly what they're measuring there, but that's the number they threw out. If things were changed by the difference of 1/10 quadrillionth, we wouldn't have life. So that kind of like speaks for itself. And then the last one they give is that in a pinhead of DNA, and I'm not a biologist, I failed out of it in 6th grade or something like that. But I understand the basic concepts here. In DNA, I think most of it know it's what is a double helix or something like that. And everybody seems to agree that it's in the DNA is we get the instructions in how a person's body will form or maybe deform if the DNA is damaged. And they're finding out that in one pinhead of DNA information, and these are not my statistics, they blow my mind, but I'll share it with you. There is enough information equivalent to fill paperback books, and I assume they're talking about the typical dime store novel or whatever it is. They didn't clarify that. If you stack the paperback books next to each other, let's say each one's an average 150 or 200 pages with I don't know how many words are in there, and you stack one next to one, it would go around the world 5,000 times.
Wow.
In the pinhead of one DNA piece, or the space of the DNA on one pinhead. And whoa! And that just magically occurred in this limited amount of time? Yeah, hello, folks. Okay, so back to my original premise, which is, and now keep in mind, people like Daniel Dennett, Richard Dawkins, for those of you who aren't familiar, is the one who wrote The God Delusion. And he spoke extremely arrogantly about, and I have so many notes here, I can go so many different directions, but I'm just going to hit some points to just really make the point tonight. One of the points that he made in his book, and he really devastates, forgive me for saying this about the Christians, but he just totally annihilates the Bible. And he does it with a couple different ways, but one of the arguments that he makes is that if the Bible is the best thing that God can do, it's pretty pathetically bad. And he gives all sorts of examples about how there's all sorts of unnecessary killing, especially in the Old. He uses predominantly the Old Testament, and he says, I'm not going to go into all the details, but he basically takes very commonly accepted stories that are in the Old Testament, and he goes, this is not the sign of a forgiving, loving God. Okay, destroying the whole city of Sodom and Gomorrah, for example. And he goes over a whole bunch of examples like that. But the big thing, what he's saying is, and if this is the best God can do in terms of helping mankind understand the world that he threw us all into, well, it's not very good. So our argument for that would be, hello, Richard Dawkins. Okay, and I did write some statistics down here. The Bible, let me see if I have it. I keep using the wrong mouse. Give me a second here. What he's basically saying is that it's just, for all the things we think about with God, it's just not a very good handbook, so to speak. Okay, it's just lacking in so many ways. Hold on here. Okay, here we go. So there's 23,143 verses in the Old Testament. There's 7,952 verses in the New Testament, giving us 31,102 verses. Okay, these are really kind of crude ways of looking at things, but I think you'll get my point here in a minute. In the Torah, it comes out to approximately 18,000 words. For some reason, they don't have it written in terms of verses. They have it in terms of words. So how many words are in a verse? I don't know. 18,000 words. Okay. Actually, to be honest with you, they have it in terms of letters. Letters. And I did the math and I converted it into words. But words aren't verses. Words, maybe 20 words to a verse. Okay, so that would even cut it down more. And in the Torah, let me see, I've got that information here too. In the Quran, there's only 6,236 verses. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because, and some of you might have seen me doing this earlier this evening, just out of curiosity, I pulled my chart apart on different ways of knowing things, which happens to have some statistics here on the Vedas. And you'll see here that we start with, let me see if I can get this out of here. Oh, we don't need this. Okay. So if you look at this, the Vedas are broken up into 3 different divisions. The one that we frequently read from here is called the Bhagavad Purana. Is this big enough for everybody to see this?
No.
Okay, hold on. I'll try to make it a little bigger. I'll have to push this around a little bit. Okay, come on.
When I had a younger pair of eyes, I could see it.
Okay, the computer is taking its time, but hopefully it'll. Oh, there we go. Okay, is that a little better?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know why the computer's dragging its feet here. Okay, so if we go up here, now keep in mind, the Bible says it has 31,000 verses, which is pretty impressive actually. But remember, Richard Dawkins is saying, okay, what happened here, folks? The computer is giving me trouble. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Richard Dawkins' argument is that it's an embarrassment. The Bible is an embarrassment for an almighty God who's supposed to have created everything and has everything all figured out. So we'd like to suggest Richard Dawkins maybe should look at some of the stuff that's in the Vedic literatures. And you will find that, anyhow, to make my point, I'm not going to go through the whole thing for the sake of time, but what I did is I took the Puranas in the mode of goodness, the Puranas in the mode of passion, and the Puranas in the mode of ignorance, which are what's listed all here. And then I took all these other references, and we find that the Vedic, the major canonical of the canonical scriptures of the Vedas is 626,385 verses. And we find, and for those who are familiar with my charts, particularly the one on time and a new one, which maybe I'll give you a peek at tonight, all of this information is coming. It's telling us the way the universe is structured. It's telling, in fact, I took some notes on this. This is the kind, in fact, we have a video. Hold on here. We have a video. Again, there's so many things we can do tonight. If people want to make suggestions when we're ready to do it. I also have a video that was put together by the devotees that are talking about the scientific contributions that the Vedas have made. For example, most of us here were taught in grade school. Where did numbers come from? Where did mathematics come from? What did they teach you in grade school?
The Arab world.
The Arab world. That's right. But actually the Arabs got it from the Hindus. Why they don't teach that in America could be hundreds of different reasons. But that's pretty much well recognized by the people who are going a little deeper than what they put in the average textbooks. And why they don't teach kids that, I don't know. And in fact, there's a whole part of the Vedas that talk about doing, again, I don't know how many people are involved with the educational system, but it seems like every couple of years they come up with remember they used to call it new math? When we were growing up, we were taught to do long math and long calculus. And then there's something that came out they called new math, which was a different way of teaching. Of course, now nobody has to do any math at all because they all have a calculator, right? But let me tell you something, and don't ask me why, but when I had to do my studies for my MBA, they would not allow you to take a calculator in for your test.
What a headache that was.
Yeah, I can't, and that was about 10, 15 years ago. So I'm wondering, a kid without a calculator today wouldn't know how to do anything, right? I mean, I have to admit, when I do, I just go to a calculator, right? Because they're so easy to use. Right.
You need your basics, but then, hello.
But the point is by using a calculator, a lot of people aren't fully aware of the whole the numbers work. I mean, when you work it out by hand, you kind of have a sense of what you're doing. Punching a calculator is just magic. It's like, oh, that's a number. Okay, fine. I don't know how to figure it out, but there it is, or the concept. So, but the point is that the Vedas actually have a whole section where they talk about, and you can look this stuff up on the internet, by the way, where they talk about how to do calculations with a piece of paper and a pencil with all these little tricks. I think some of us have heard the tricks with 9. I don't even know what they are, but there's a trick with anything 9 times a certain number. It's like 9 times 8, whatever it is.
What's a pencil?
The integers add up to 9.
Right.
If you got 9 times 2, 1/8 equals 9.
Yeah. There's all sorts.
There's the magic number.
Yeah, but there's more than just 9. All of the numbers have these magic things. Like 5 has, everybody knows that 5 is magic number. You better end in a 5 or a 0, it's wrong, right? So. But the Vedas have all these little details that tell you how you can do math with a paper and a pencil. It's one of those things that has carbon. They used to use it 20 years ago to do calculations and stuff. Okay. All of this stuff was written thousands of years ago. Another one. Here's another one. Let me see. I've got all this stuff in here somewhere. Another one that's in the Vedic literatures, which is right there. And now I'm really speaking predominantly, although there are some other things that I can share with you. Just in the Bhagavad Purana, the one literature here which is on this list, which is the one that we predominantly study from because it's in the mode of goodness. Go back up here again. And all these numbers you're seeing here are how many thousands of verses. Okay, the Bhagavad Purana here talks about Krishna's pastimes. This is considered the highest knowledge, the summa bonum of all the Vedic literatures, all right? And what they're saying here is that in the Bhagavad Purana, it actually has information about the gestation cycle for a woman giving birth to a baby. Now, we're very proud about our scientific medical knowledge. And most medical people would tell you that, we through X-rays and what do they call it, sonogram? What do they call it? Ultrasound. We're able to study the woman's body and the growth of the baby. And they say most of what we know about the development of a baby has been over the last maybe 150 years. But then why is it that in the Vedas it talks about exactly how a baby gets developed in the womb of a mother? It was written several thousands of years ago. And Richard Dawkins, or I should say in this case Larry Krauss, who by the way, if anybody who read the newsletter says his theory is how he can show everything came from nothing. And he's got a book on that right now, how everything came from nothing. And for those of you who read the newsletter, you might have caught on to the fact that I called his bluff and I said, wait a minute, Mr. Larry Krauss, what you're really saying is everything came from the space that's existing between the stars before the stars appeared, basically referred to as outer space, right? And gravity, because he says dependent on gravity, and time. That's not nothing. That's space, gravity, and time. Where did all the space, gravity, and time come from? Mr. Larry Krauss, who's trying to prove that God doesn't exist by showing us how everything could have occurred from nothing. He's not talking about nothing. He's talking about space, time, and gravity. So, and in one of the lectures he gave, or one of the debates he was in, he was very vitriolic about demanding, show me some place where religion has contributed to the scientific knowledge. Well, Larry, all the math you use came from the Vedas. Sir, you're showing your ignorance. Which is really embarrassing when these people are trying to come off like, in fact, he's very, very belligerent. And he says, if you don't accept evolution, if you don't accept our conclusions, then you're basically a complete fool.
So did he respond to you?
No, and I didn't write it to him. It's just in my newsletter. I'm tempted to write some kind of a major paper pointing this stuff out, but I'm way still got a lot to learn before I do that. So anyhow, the point is that, and here's another argument. These are the arguments that do not work when we're talking about the Vedas. It works with all the other religions, but it doesn't work with the Veda. I'll give you an example. And by the way, keep in mind, the Vedas are the only religion that was not put together, and I don't even like the word religion, but
a body of knowledge.
Body of knowledge, thank you.
Scriptures.
Yeah, it's the only body of knowledge that has been compiled and put together and originated before Kali Yuga began, which was 5,000 years ago. Okay? Right? And we know everything in Kali Yuga is contaminated. Everything. And if you actually look at the different traditions as they move through different generations, or as we move further into Kali Yuga, the concepts of faith are getting more and more bizarre to what we have now as the whole New Age movement, which basically is saying we want heaven on earth without God. That's what they're all trying to say in the end. Or we want to be God. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. One of these are some of the big arguments that these atheist people are throwing out there, and they're saying, for example, I saw him totally destroy this Muslim. He was a very scholarly Muslim. He was a young man, but he was very knowledgeable about the Quran, and he just destroyed him. And one of the questions he said to him is, well, if you believe that God gave us the Quran, why did he wait till about 700 years ago or 700 years after Jesus? I mean, what about all the people before that? Why did God wait so damn long? Excuse me, but why did he wait so long? And he can use the same argument with Christianity. Why did he wait so long? I mean, we know that man's been around a lot longer before Jesus showed up. Why did he wait so long? Even if you go back to the old Torah, that's another 1,000 years before Jesus, plus or minus, if you believe the world's that old.
Maybe because they were disconnected from the Vedas and from the East,
But my point is, but he doesn't even know about the Vedas. I'm trying to share with you some of the arguments that these other traditions have to answer. Well, Mr. Larry Krauss, guess what? The Vedas were around. I actually did a calculation. I think I put it in the paper. But it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Imam vivashite yogam proktavam maham avyayam vivishwan manve pravur manar ikshrakare barit. Chapter 4, text 1, I believe it is.
Correct.
And Krishna says, I spoke this science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivishwan, which is on my map of time. If you do the math, that's 120 million years ago. 120.5 million years ago. And
who spoke to the sun god?
Krishna said that. Krishna spoke to the sun god Vivishwan 120 million years ago.
Wow.
But we don't stop there.
But I didn't think Krishna was that old.
Yeah.
We're not going to comment on that one. Okay, but we don't stop there. We know that Lord Brahma, and we have a book on the bookshelf up here called the Brahma Samhita. Samhita means song or testimony, depending on how you want to translate it. That was spoken at the dawn of creation. When Lord, and this is, by the way, this is explained in the, the second and third canto of the Bhagavatam, where Lord Brahma is appearing. He's the first progenitor in this universe, because there's billions of universes. And he comes up, he comes out of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's abdomen, and he's looking around, and there's nothing here. It's dark. And he's, as any rational person would be, he's kind of going, what am I doing here? And he hears the mantra from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Tapa, which means tapasya, which means austerity. And he understood in his heart, whoa, voice from the cloud. There was no cloud. Voice from the dark.
Brahma, this is Brahma.
This is Lord Brahma. And he meditates for some god awful amount of time, 100 million years or something. I don't know the number right now. And then eventually Krishna reveals to him that you need to create the universe. And so it's all explained in the Bhagavatam, how the universe was created, I've illustrated a bunch of it. But Lord Brahma, in the process, he also wrote the Brahma Samhita, which is the song that you hear at all of our temples. Govindam Adipujam Tamaham Bhajami. Right? Govindam Adipujam. Adi means first. Pusham means the first person. Govindam Adipujam Tam Aham Bhajami. That's the person that I worship. And the whole, whatever it is, 50 some odd verses of Brahma Samhita that we chant, very elaborate descriptions of who Krishna is, what Brahma's relationship with him is, and all of the different aspects of Godhead that we now have a tremendous amount of appreciation for. Some night we should do a class on the Brahma Samhita. And that was at the beginning of creation, which is something like 6 trillion years ago.
So what year was Krishna born?
Krishna was never born.
It's called Aja.
Aja.
What she's
He
wanting to
appeared.
know.
Okay,
Yeah, she
okay.
wants to know that.
Krishna appeared. That's where that part of Bhagavad Gita comes in. Arjuna actually asked him that question. Because Krishna was saying, I have been here many, many times. I can remember all these things, but you cannot. And Arjuna's going, wait, time out, wait a minute. How can you remember all these things that are going on back in the days of Ikshvaku when you were just born recently in his life? And he says, because I'm eternal. And you, help me out here. I can't remember the exact words.
I remember them.
I remember these things. You do not. Because I existed eternally, and you have forgotten, and that's what our situation is too. People say sometimes, well, if you believe in reincarnation, how come I can't remember my past life? And the way the world is set up, and Prabhupada, I believe, answered that question with, if you actually understood your past life, you'd be freaked out, totally freaked out. If you realized all the activities, how many births and bodies and different spaces and places you've been, you would be a psychological nut job. Totally, yeah, schizophrenic nut job. So it's actually a blessing that Krishna wipes the slate clean, and yet we have some sensation that we were here before.
And some of us remember some of our previous
We might have
lives.
some sensation, and there are some people doing hypnotics which are able to draw some things out. I don't want to go down that road. There's a lot of
you see,
weird
for
stuff.
example, musicians, children
There you go.
sometimes have a great talent, or in many fields, or in the arts, or especially music.
Like Mozart.
Well, that's a perfect example. He was writing sonatas at age 7. So
Right.
you had a couple things going on.
Right. So, anyhow, this topic, by the way, that's one of the evolutionary charts that the scientists are trying to show us to prove this evolution. There's so much material here. I've got like 3 pages of notes. For the sake of not getting bogged down in all of it, we just don't have the time. So we're going to move forward here. The only thing probably that we need to resolve is, what do we want to do during dinner? We can either watch a couple episodes of this. I would recommend that we watch the Vedic movie about the contributions the Vedas have made to modern science.
Oh, that sounds good.
We can also do a preview of one of the new charts I have, but I'm not too worried about that.
What's the name of that one?
This is called, what is this called? The evidence. Where does the evidence lead? So this is just this is like kind of an academic video. They talk, it's done by some high level scientists, and they're trying to say, look, if, one last thing. When we talk about the law of evolution, there's a fundamental point that everybody needs to understand. It's called, now I'm going to forget what it's called. If you're moving from one thing to another, if there's one part of it that has to be there in order to move from, the eye's traditionally been one of the big arguments, but they've been able to answer that one. For example, well, actually in the cell, I think it's on here. The cell has like 27 completely, or here's a better example. The way the blood clots. For the people who understand biology, I think it's like 25 different things happen. When you cut your hand, like I scraped my hand here the other day, my blood clotted. And in order for my blood to clot, I think something like 27 different things have to happen within the human body to make sure the defense system has to know, oh, you're wounded. Then it has to send the right chemicals and the right corpuscles, and a whole list of things are happening on a biological level to cause your blood to clot, because if it doesn't clot, you would bleed to death. What do they call it? Hemophiliacs? I think
Yes,
that's.
they don't have the ability.
They don't have the ability, and so it's very dangerous. If they get cut, they could bleed to death. All right, we take it for granted if your blood clots, and that's an example of, if one of those 27 different things did not occur, your blood would not clot and you'd bleed to death. Hello, That's called end of the evolution concept because everybody would die.
That's called inbreeding.
Okay? So the point is, they have to demonstrate, how can that happen? You've got to, every one of those pieces have to be there. You can't have 24 of the 27. You need all 27. Any one of them, it's like they say, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, what if there is no link? Are we leaving? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So anyhow, it's time for us to get on with the prasadam. We can have more discussion. Let's do this because I want to honor everybody's time here. And then we will go to, hold on here, maybe I can make it a little better.
I just would like to make one comment real quick, if I may, Maheshwar.
Sure, go ahead.
And that is, in addition to mathematics, the Vedas also provide a lot of information on astronomy. And there's a lot of astronomical conclusions that were reached about the motions of the planets and the stars and what the Earth's position is long before Galileo showed up.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's the first point. The second is, I just heard this afternoon that there's a lab in New Mexico, and they've assured us that just by combining a couple of chemicals, they're going to be able to create life. They just need some more money.
Right. Lots more.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a common challenge Prabhupada used to say. If you can create life by putting chemicals in a tube, then go ahead and do it. Create 1 grain of rice.
Creating eggs.
Create one mosquito. You can even create 1 germ by mixing chemicals together. They can't do it. They haven't done it. And he used to say, all their arguments, Prabhupada really slammed them. He said, all their arguments are post-dated check. And the example is that if I say, oh, hey, Gary, I'll pay you. Come over, do all this work. I'll give you a check. And well, don't cash it quite yet. I'll put the money in the bank in a couple of years. Who would accept a check like that? And that's what the scientists are doing. Well, we haven't quite done it yet. But we will. We will. Just give us enough time. Well, you've had 100 years.
That's ridiculous. A woman could walk in and, end the whole story right there.
I'm not sure exactly what that means.
What that means is a woman can create life.
Yeah, right.
They are
Right.
bypassing the mother.
Right.
They're bypassing the mother.
But unless you have that one extra element.
Yeah.
Let me put out an argument for the guys here. We're part of this
Gary's standing up.
I have to say something. A man and a woman do not create life. They make a sperm and an egg.
Am I wrong?
Something
No,
else
that's
creates
accurate.
life.
All right, that's a
Man,
technical
it's not
detail.
the woman, and it's not the both either.
That's true. If God doesn't want that sperm and egg to germinate, then guess what? It doesn't happen. And actually, it's a good point. Actually, you're making a very good point that there are some people who try to have children and they just can't do it. They haven't been, as they would say, blessed in that regard. So if Krishna doesn't want it to happen, not going to happen.
But another point is that the man and the woman didn't make the egg and the sperm. Something created that.
That's right. That's right. God's creating
didn't do anything.
That's right. And if they're not creating an egg or a sperm, they're not going to have a child. Okay, let's do this so we can get on with the evening, and we will we'll kind of work it out from here. We have a smaller crowd than I was expecting to see, but
Can I say one thing?
sure.
That it seems that the so-called scientific community promoting that life comes from nothing or from matter, they have the money interest. They have jobs. And if they said, no, I believe in God now, then nobody's going to pay them anything.
Right. There's a whole lot of politics.
We're coming to it. And
There's a whole lot of politics.
$80,000 for this year's research.
You mean 80 million?
Well, I'm talking about two people up on a mountain looking at stars. They need to pay the pizza guy.
Okay, let's do this out of respect for time. We're going way over here. Please. Oh, it got Gary's attention. Okay, please, if you know this, repeat it with me. Hello, order in the court.
Sorry, Dad.
Come on, I don't want to get you guys out of here on time tonight. Boy, we got a rowdy group tonight. I'll tell you. Lori's ready to jump out of the couch. Go beat those guys up. Okay. Follow with me if you know it. Saridara Vijajal Jitendriya Teka Jive Phale Karma Jay Javayati. All together. Loma Boya Sudurmati Take Jeta Katina Samsare Krishna Baladayamai Kari Bala Jivachai Swapashad Nilobai Sanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Premida Ko Chaitanya Nitai Jai Nimai Nitai. Okay, who wants to have the honors to read the English tonight? Wait a second. Anybody else want to do it? Okay, Vishant, it's yours.
O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into this ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. But you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us and have given us such nice prasadam, or sanctified food, just to control the tongue. Now we take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify the Lordship Shri Shri Radha Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda by Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Very good. Thank you very much. So now I assume, Peterson, we're good to go out there? Okay. So why don't we all go get some nice food to eat? Come on back out here. Let me just see a show of hands. We can either do